So you'll be sitting there reading and your attention will flicker away. You'll think about, I don't know, maybe you want to watch Jane the Virgin on Netflix or something like that. Or maybe it's time to have a peanut butter sandwich, or you should get the dust bunnies out from underneath the bed, or it's time to go outside and have a cigarette, or maybe it's time for a cup of coffee, or it's like all these subsystems in you that would like something aren't very happy just to sit there while you read this thing that you're actually bored by. And so they pop up and try to take control of your perceptions and your actions nonstop. Maybe you think, well, this is a stupid course anyways. Why do I have to read this damn paper? And what am I doing in university? And what's the point of life? It's like you can really get going if you're trying to avoid doing your homework. And then you might think, well, what is it in you that's trying to avoid? Because after all, you took the damn course and you told yourself to sit down. Why don't you listen? Well, because you're a mess. That's basically why. You haven't got control over yourself at all. And no more than I have control over this laptop. Okay, so there's the memory function of the unconscious, and there's the dissolutive function. That's an interesting one. The unconscious contains habits, once voluntary, now automatized, and dissociated elements of the personality, which may lead a parasitic existence. That's an interesting one. I would relate that more to procedural memory. So what you've done is practice certain habits, whatever they might be. Let's call them bad habits. And you like those things to get under control, but you can't. So maybe when you're speaking, for example, you use like and and you say a lot. And you've practiced that, so you're really good at it. And you'd like to stop it, but you don't get to, because you've built that little machine right into your being, right? It's neurologically wired, and it's not under conscious control. And anything you practice becomes that. It becomes part of you, and that's another element of the unconscious, a different part. And then there's a creative part, which is that, well, you're sitting around and maybe you're trying to write something, or maybe you want to produce a piece of art or a piece of music, or maybe you're just laying in bed dreaming and you have all these weird ideas, and especially in dreams, it's like, where do those things come from? And even more strange, one of the things that's really weird about dreams, and almost impossibly weird, is that you're an observer in the dream. It's like a dream is something that happens to you. Well, you're dreaming it, theoretically, so how is it that you can be an observer? It's almost like you're watching a video game or a movie. But you're producing it, at least in principle, although the psychoanalysts would say, well, no, not exactly. Your ego isn't producing it. Your unconscious is producing it. It's a different thing. It's a different thing. And of course, Jung would say, well, it's deeper than that. The collective unconscious might be producing it. It's, in some sense, it isn't you exactly, or it isn't the you that you think of when you think of you. And that's the ego from the Freudian perspective, the you that you identify with. That's the ego. And outside of that is the unconscious, the id. That's more the place of impulses, and you could think about those as the biological subsystems that can derail your thinking, right? And that govern things like hunger and sex and aggression, and your basic instincts is another way of putting it. And it's a reasonable way of thinking about it, because these are subsystems that you share with animals. You share them certainly with mammals. You share most of them with reptiles. You share a lot of them with amphibians, and even going all the way down to crustaceans. There's commonality, for example, in the dominance hierarchy circuits. And so these are very, very old things.
Quit running away from the gift. Your gift will make room for you. Stop trying to be something you ain't gifted at. Nobody asked you to go down here and study to be a dentist, and you ain't really good at that. Quit going down to the church trying to sing. You can't sing. Now, just because they let you sing at the church, you're not finna, ain't nobody else finna go with this. Because, come as you are, the Lord loveth a cheerful giver, all that. We don't apply scriptures out here. You come to the Apollo and you can't sing, we got something for your ass up there. Period. Listen to me. All of you have this gift. Identify it. It's the thing that you do the absolute best with the least amount of effort. That's what you should be doing. You're wasting your time pursuing your passion. The Bible does not mention passion. It mentions your gift. What are you gifted at, and do that? Stop tripping. And in the beginning, I took everything, man. I was grinding. I was trying to get here. I took everything. I think that's the part that young people don't get. Like, I talked to a lot of young acts today. I ain't doing that. That didn't pay enough. Did you hear what you said? You said it don't pay enough. But it pays. If you don't take the gig, you're going to get zero. Yeah. Well, no. I want this, and they only pay. I said, how much did you want? I wanted $5,000 for the night. How much they offer? $3,500. Yo, dog, what else do you have that you can get somebody to give you $3,500 for the night? Go tell your jokes. Nah, man, they got to pay me what I want. But see, now you're not honing your craft and you're not making money. He said, would you have took it for $3,500? I said, yeah. He said, would you take it for $3,500 now? I said, no. But why you won't take it now, but you want me to take it? You don't have what I have. Well, what are we talking about? Just inch by inch, anything's a cinch. You got to take steps, man. It's hard to get young people to understand that. I want what you got now. You can't have what I got now. Yeah, I tell my kids all the time. Me and my kids, we have this discussion. It take a long time to make a lot of money. If you think you can just go make a lot of money real fast, you're going to be constantly disappointed. It take a long time to make money. I've been in this business since I was 27 years old. I'm 64. Man, come on. Look at what your life, well, you looking at now. You missed the 3 years I was living in a car. You didn't see that. You missed when I lost everything I ever owned twice. You missed the 2 divorces. You missed me flunking out of school. You missed all that. You see this now. This ain't how it work now. Yeah, oh, it look easy. Yeah, I'll make it look easy. This is hard. Come out here. Come turn this corner. I'm going to invite any one of y'all to come up here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Family Feud. Here's Ricky. And Ricky, walk your ass around this corner and just do what I do. It's really hard. The boredom of normalcy and the numbness of mediocrity stiffens your passions. The boredom of normalcy and the numbness of mediocrity stiffens your passion. What that meant was I was so sick of myself. I was so bored in my life, man. I was so tired of being mediocre. I was just tired of it, and it was all my fault. I was mediocre because I wasn't doing the things to be exceptional. And I was bored. I was losing my mind, man, on the assembly line at Ford Motor Company, going door to door selling life insurance at a debit company. I was tripping, man. I said, man, what is this? My life can't be this. You know, you ever say to yourself, man, it's got to be more to my life than this? If you've ever said that, that's cause it is. And you got to get after that, man. You got to go and get at that. If you don't do it, life becomes real normal and real mediocre to you. Now, there's nothing wrong with being normal, but if normal is getting on your nerves, then you got to change something. If you tired of being mediocre, you got to change something. You know, now, everybody has to determine what their own normal is. Normal for me is going to be different from you. Normal for you is different from me. But once you determine what normal is for you and you ain't okay with that no more, you got to go do something, man.
There are ways of objectively evaluating your achievements. Most people don't take advantage of them as often as they should, but they're available nonetheless. For example, you can put together a financial statement in order to determine your net worth. You can hire an appraiser in order to learn the market value of your house. You can compare where you were 10 years ago to where you are now in order to determine the degree of progress you've made in your life. If you are a person of strong character, you will promise yourself that you will achieve your goals, or it doesn't matter, because you never consider that possibility. You have made a promise and you're going to keep it. When you set out to drive to the grocery store, you don't stop at the doorway and think, what will I do if I don't make it? You simply intend to get to the grocery store. You know you're going to get there. You will get there. It's simply assumed. Fear is simply the inability to make a promise to yourself. It kicks in when you start thinking about all the bad things that can happen to you on the way to your destination. And before long, you're thinking, wouldn't it be easier just to stay home? Isn't it safer to just stay in bed? Isn't it better to pull the covers up over my head? When you were learning how to walk, you made a silent promise to yourself that you were going to do it. It may have been scary at times. You surely stumbled again and again. Tears surely fell from your eyes, but no matter. You didn't even think about that. Each time you fell, you forgot about it as soon as you regained your feet because you had promised yourself you were going to walk across the room. And you did it. How long did it take? Who cares? You did it. Most of us, virtually all of us in fact, need reasons outside of ourselves in order to accomplish anything of significance. We can still be people of strong character, but we need something outside ourselves to help us become as strong as we can be. Just sort of wanting to be financially successful is rarely enough to make it happen. Just wanting to learn a new skill, or give up a self-destructive habit, or make some other major change in your lifestyle usually won't cut the mustard. But what if you had to get a large amount of money in order to afford the very best medical care for someone you love? Or if you had to change your way of living in order to find a way out of some other life or death situation? Your motivation would move to a much higher level. If you're like most people, having to is a lot stronger than wanting to. But often, and especially when you're young, that difference isn't always clear until someone points it out to you. In my own life, it was my mentor, the late Mr. Earl Schoaf, who pointed out the distinction between wanting to on the one hand and really wanting to, or even having to, on the other. By doing so, Mr. Schoaf did me a great favor, and after we'd talked about this, I felt for the first time I was really pointed in the direction of success. We need all the help we can get in terms of motivation, but of course different people are motivated by different things. I've read a number of studies on motivation, and the ones I've found most convincing have isolated 4 main factors as the most powerful human motivators. These are the real factors that make people get off their behinds and do things. These are what works when wanting to just isn't enough. These are the true reasons for believing something is worth doing and then for actually doing it. The first great motivator is recognition from peers. Quite simply, recognition from peers is a truly powerful motivating force in any human activity. The second important motivator is recognition from respected experts or authorities. I can tell you that in my own life, this has been an extremely important factor. Mr. Schoaf, whom I mentioned a moment ago, was someone that I respected from the first moment I was introduced to him. And he was also someone whose respect I desperately wanted to earn. Family is the third great motivator, and in many ways, it's really the most powerful. Although the approval of peers and experts may be most important in your career, in your life as a whole, nothing can compare with the importance of your family. A person who can feel that level of emotion for other human beings is truly blessed. The fourth and last achievement motivating factor I want to mention is closely related to the desire to benefit your family. In fact, you could say it's a desire to benefit the whole family of man. Let's call it the impulse toward benevolence, toward sharing your wealth and wisdom with the world. Now, what do we really see? The thing that I immediately notice is that they all involve other people, whether it's peers, mentors, family members, or simply fellow members of the human race. It's ironic, isn't it? In order to be successful, you need this very internal, very personal, very unique thing called strong character. But in order to acquire that innermost quality and set it to work, you need people other than yourself as reasons to believe. Maybe that's not true if you're the toughest man on earth. Maybe then you can do whatever needs to be done just because you set your mind to do it. The thing is, though, there's only one toughest man on earth at any one time, and I'm not the one.
A lot of pain in my life, no more than nobody else. I just had a lot. But I learned along the way, everything that's happening to you is God is processing. Every difficult moment you're having, He just processing it. That's all He's doing. Everything you're going through is preparing you for what you ask God for. And if you need to be tough when you get to where you're going, then He gonna toughen you. If you got to be more caring along the way, he gonna let you have some trials come your way that's gonna have to produce that in you. What happened in my life was getting where I've gotten to today and where I'm even headed to, I had to be tough. So he toughened me along the way. I had to learn how to appreciate a lot, so he took everything. To really understand the value of money, I had none. To just appreciate simple things, what I'm gonna eat today, he sent me through a trial of being homeless for 3 years. I lived in a car for 3 years. All of that I was going through, that I was tripping with, that I did not appreciate or understand, I understand it now, because I'm on the other side of them troubles. And I understand what all them troubles was for. And even though I did not understand or appreciate the route he took me on, it was the route I had to go on. See, the route you on right now is the route you got to take. And it's very uniquely yours. This thing you going through, this just uniquely yours. You just got to understand you ain't the only one. You ain't the only one going through it. Now, in the order that it's going to happen, it's just yours. See, God made us very different. This God we got, God is amazing.
You're waiting for God to bring you out while God is waiting for you to invite him in. You have to do like David. Father, thank you that you are with me right here in this valley. I'm not going to live afraid, worried. I may not see a way, but I know you have a way. Instead of just trying to get out of the valley, out of the trouble, out of the fire, if you'll start saying, God, come in. Let me feel your presence in the fire. Show me your greatness in this trouble. Then you'll have a peace that passes understanding, a joy when you could be discouraged, a hope when you should be distraught. In the scripture, 3 Hebrew teenagers wouldn't bow down to the king's golden idol. The king was so furious, he threatened to have them thrown into a fiery furnace. The teenager said, King, we're not worried. We know our God will deliver us. This made the king even more angry. He had the guards turn up the furnace 7 times hotter than normal. Why did God have the king make the fire even hotter? He wanted it to be a bigger miracle. He wanted the odds to be more against them. The fact is, God could have kept them out of the fire. He's God. He parted Red Seas. He opened blind eyes. Would have been no problem for God to change the king's mind or to help these teenagers escape. But God doesn't deliver us from every fire. Sometimes he'll take you through the fire. The good news is God knows how to make you fireproof. People don't determine your destiny. Bad breaks cannot stop God's plan for your life. Sickness, addictions, unfair situations don't have the final say. Now, don't be discouraged because God didn't keep you out of the fire. God doesn't stop every negative situation. He uses adversities to move us into our purpose. We would never know his power if we were never thrown into a fire, so to speak. You wouldn't know he was a healer if you never had an illness. We wouldn't know he could move mountains if we never faced big obstacles. Now, quit complaining about what you're up against. It's not a surprise to God. The enemy may have turned up the fire 7 times hotter than normal. They didn't do that without God's permission. God is in control, not just of your life, He's in control of your enemies. Instead of complaining about the fire, start inviting Him into the fire. When He's with you, you cannot be defeated. You and God are a majority. He is a supernatural God. He's not limited by the fire, by the floods, by the famines. What should take you out cannot stop your destiny. Instead of complaining about everything that you don't like, if you'll recognize that God allowed the difficulty. I'm not saying that He sent it, but He allowed it because He had a purpose. And the purpose is not so you can live miserable, worried, and afraid. His purpose is to show His glory through you. It's so other people can see His power and favor on your life. Without great tests, you won't have a great testimony. Without big battles, we won't see big victories. These teenagers said, "We know our God will deliver us." They made this statement of faith. Then they said something even more powerful. "But even if He doesn't, we're still not going to bow down." That's the kind of people that give the enemy a nervous breakdown. When you can say, "God, this is what I'm believing for. This is what I'm hoping will happen. But God, even if it doesn't work out my way, I'm still going to give you praise. I'm still going to be good to others. I'm still going to show up Sunday and usher. I'm still going to pursue my dreams." That attitude gets God's attention. You're saying, "God, not my will, but let your will be done." But too often, we're putting conditions on God and conditions on our prayer. "God, I'll be happy if my boss moves to the backside of Mars. When you get him out of my life, then I'll have a good attitude." Have you ever thought God may be using that person to do a work in you, to grow you up, to develop your character, to teach you to love those that are not very lovable? Instead of praying, "God, get me out of this situation," I'm asking you to start praying, "God, come into this situation. Help me to have a good attitude. Help me to do the right thing when the wrong thing is happening." It's very powerful when you can say, "God, if my boss never moves, if he's here until I go to heaven, I know you have given me the strength to overcome, the power to be happy in the middle of this difficulty, and I am not going to let this person, this sickness, this injustice steal my joy." Now you're growing. Now you're coming up higher. Because sometimes God is waiting for us to pass the test before He brings us out. The king had the guards tie up the teenagers' hands and feet with cords. They threw them into the furnace. It was so hot that the guards were instantly killed. It looked like this was the end for the teenagers, but people don't have the final say. If it's not your time to go, you're not going to go. Nothing can snatch you out of God's hands. In a little while, the king came to check on them. He looked through the furnace window and was puzzled. He said, "Didn't we throw 3 men in bound? I see 4 men loosed, and one looks like the Son of God." God may not keep you out of every fire, but don't worry, He'll come into the fire with you. He'll help you overcome what looks impossible. That illness should be the end. The medical report said you were done. But like with my mother, God came in the fire with you, and here you are still going strong. That loved one you lost, or that person that walked away, broke your heart. That should have soured your life. But look at you now, still moving forward, doing great things, fulfilling your purpose. How could that be? God came in the fire with you.